right, 15 minutes behind. Let's go ahead and get started. How's everybody doing today? Good, all right, love to hear it. Thank you so much for being here. So, my name is Marguerite Dibble, and we are gonna do an experiment today. So thank you all for being here to try something new. We have no idea what will happen. I have tested it the best that I can, but that's the fun part about experiments, so I appreciate you all participating. What we're trying today is an experimental process around civic engagement and how we can solve problems together. So we're testing a new methodology around this. I'm just so curious how it will go and what the experience is of all of you in the room. So can't wait to get your feedback and just, see what we learned today. So I run a company called Game Theory, and at Game Theory believe that the world deserves meaningful futures, and we're really excited to start building them together. So that's exactly what we're gonna do in this room, is try doing a little bit of building. We have 3 key tools that we think are really, really important for reaching better futures. The first one is to identify a core value around something we all share. The second one is to have a fun forward process. And the third one is to build what we call living solutions. And I'll speak just briefly a little bit more in detail on each of these, and then we'll dive in and play around and see what happens. So first on finding core value. So we believe really strongly that oftentimes there is far more that unites us than divides us in terms of the solutions that we want to achieve. The ends that we all care about are highly unifying, and sometimes the means that people have used to achieve them can be a little bit more divisive. So when we start identifying solutions to big challenges that actually unite us, we want to be able to speak to what is the core value in a solution that works for everybody who's showing up for a problem. We talk a lot about this concept of we intention. And as human beings, we evolved towards we intentions. And a we intention is the difference between if I go out on the weekend by myself, I can kill a rabbit and I can eat for a couple of days. If I go out with everybody in this room, we could kill a mammoth, maybe 2, there's a lot of people in this room, and we could eat for a month. And that mammoth forms a we intention that we're then able to surround as human beings and work towards collaboratively. So we were built to serve these we intentions, and it feels really good for us to be engaged with them. But a lot of times in our lives, it feels that the distance between the feeling of reward in contributing to a we intention is far away. Like sometimes, like when I pay my health insurance bill, I don't necessarily feel like I'm participating in the we intention of supporting my community's health. So if you can identify a we intention and then have that sit at the middle of problem solving, we often get really good results, and it feels rewarding to do. So that's a key part of our process, and that's something that we'll be practicing and trying and seeing how it goes in the room today. Also, I started as a game developer, so I am a game designer at heart, and so we really believe in a fun forward process. All games do is take a big challenge and make it compelling enough that you want to spend time with it, that you want to get better at it. And I think this is something that we can learn from across a range of industries. When I started my company, it was for entertainment game development, and I quickly pivoted it into problem solving in other spaces, because I realized people are doing incredible work, and this idea of making that work feel compelling enough that you want to stick with it and you want to get it done, that is highly human, and it's something we can access in a ton of different spaces. There are tools that help people engage with problems. If you take an action and you feel a reaction in response to your action, you will be more engaged. And oftentimes in our civic structures, we kind of feel the opposite of that. We kind of feel like I've been asked to take an action, I've been asked to show up and engage, and I don't feel the reaction. I don't see the effect because of that. And so I think we actually have this tremendous opportunity to reinvigorate the participatory model of our democracy by reforging that engagement connection for people. But that takes experimentation, and it takes trying some new things. So again, that's what we'll play with a little bit today. And finally, we believe really strongly in living solutions. So a living solution is a solution that starts small, tests what it's trying to do, with people, with human beings, and then builds on what works and learns in relation to people and ecosystems. And this is different than a lot of times we'll try and build the perfect solution. Especially in policy and social spaces, we'll say, we want to get this right because it's important. So we'll spend years thinking of a solution that fits just right for everybody. And what sometimes that means is it doesn't really live and exist for anybody. It can be very rigid, and it can be very cumbersome because of that. So we believe very strongly in starting small, prototyping. If you think you can provide value, what's the smallest, simplest way you can test if you can provide value with the people that you're trying to impact? Once you've done that, listen to them, learn from them, and make it a little bit bigger. And do that step by step so that your solution is alive. It's listening and it's adapting to the world, rather than being something that sort of sits on some work tables for years while you try to make it risk averse without actually seeing if it stands up to risk in the environment. So with all of that in mind, today we are going to try this process of solving problems together all in the room, and we're going to see what happens. So let's start. This is going to be an experiment in how we can collectively solve problems with the resources that are just right here in this space with everybody. So go ahead and pull that site up. You also have QR codes on some of the tables, if that's easier. It's the big one. Our folks, can I get some thumbs up that you are seeing something? Wow, look, great. So far, so good. Fantastic. Okay, so what you're seeing on your screens is the we intention that we are going to be working on today. We are going to try and find pathways to achieving this all together. And I'm going to switch now to the view on my screen. I'm going to ask for some help from our tech team. Also, shout outs to the IT team here. Woo! Oh yeah, great. Yay, thank you. Okay, fantastic. So we're gonna do some work on this we intention. So the idea is that by the time we leave this room today, we should all have some actionable pathways on how we can achieve this just with the power and ideas in this room. Normally when we do this, we do a little bit of a pre-process where, so for example, if we were doing this in a town, we would ask everybody, what kind of future do you want for your community? What does that look like? Trisha and the folks at Leahy have allowed us to shortcut this because you are all in this room because you care about this. So this is the we intention that we're going to be working on. Okay, so to get started, does everybody see something a little different on your screens? Great, okay. So I am going to ask everybody to talk amongst yourselves at your table. And what I'm going to ask you to do is take turns telling stories about what a rural Vermont community looks like if it's thriving and sustainable. What does that feel like? So we'll discuss this for a little bit, and as you discuss, enter on your phones, in order for that to be true, what's something that needs to exist? So if at our tables we can all come up with 2 or 3 things that we think need to happen to power that story of a thriving, sustainable Vermont to be true, that's our goal. We'll do this for the next 5 or so minutes. Sound good? Make sense? Okay, great, let's do it. Okay, I'm gonna circle us back for a minute. We'll keep these conversations rolling. So as you can see, we've got a lot of great contributions. We've got, what, like almost, oh boy, here they keep coming. So we got around 78. We're gonna go ahead and move on to our next phase here. So what I'm gonna do over on my end is I'm going to run a consolidation to try and affect, we're gonna group any duplicates together. We're gonna try and put some categories, because as I can see already, there's been, groups have similar ideas, which is wonderful to see. So I'm gonna run a consolidation here. I'm doing this with an AI assistant who's gonna try and group the similar ideas for me. Then I'm gonna review all of that and make sure that I think it actually did a good job. And then I'm gonna share with you all. So please continue the conversation. I'll run this for a second and then I'll call you all back once it's ready to share out. So we have consolidated. So what we've done up here is we've taken the results that everybody submitted on their phones and grouped those into a couple of key categories. So these categories are being shown. They flow down from our we intention. So in order for this to be true, these are some of the things that we identified in the room today we want to happen that would make up that future. If I go over here, you can see that there's quite a few, but honestly, this is some of the tightest consolidation that I've seen running these experiments. So it's an aligned room, which is exciting to see. So if we go in here and take a look at some of these up close, gathering places and third spaces, 16 different inputs that are underneath that category. Affordable and varied housing, also something that people would love to see. Local jobs, and I think this is economic opportunity. So inside of each of these, we can see the individual pieces that were submitted and what folks want to see. Welcoming and inclusive community culture, green spaces and outdoor recreation. Inclusive and participatory local governance is something that we all definitely want to see. So what we've done within a couple minutes here is we've consolidated the visions that we all have for what it looks like for our community to be prosperous and captured them in a space that we can all look at and then build intention around. So what we're gonna do for our next step, if you all look at your phones, you'll see that you have a new prompt. And what we're gonna ask is in your groups talk about, so for this piece of the future to exist, and you'll be able to pick from multiples based on the ideas that you submitted. So based on what you submitted, what's something that's gonna have to happen to make this possible? So this is where we're gonna try and get a little bit more specific. So for example, for gathering places in third spaces, what's something that would need to happen for this to be possible? Well, we would need a space. What are some of those spaces? We would need a library. We would need the St. John's Club. We would need any number of things. So that's what we'll do for the next couple of minutes, is try and identify what's a particular thing that would have to happen in order to empower any of these ideas. Does that make sense to everybody? We seeing that on our phones? Awesome. Okay, let's do it. All right. Let's see how we did. Any last? I'll wait for a couple more, and I'm going to move us on to our next piece here. Okay, so up on the screen, we have some updated information. Now, what we can see is we can see each one of the things that we identified we want, and underneath it, we can see the stuff that we know has to happen to empower it. So we've identified the large pieces that we know will help us build the future that we want to live in, and we've identified specific steps, specific things that we know will empower each of those pieces to succeed. So we could just take a look at some of these. Once again, gathering spaces in third places has lots of ideas underneath it. Leadership and a trusted champion, capital stack, accessible location with flexible hours. The flexible hours note I especially like, that's very true. A general store, marketing for those spaces, things that draw people to town. Wow, some great ideas in here. Craft access, live music, outdoor activities, accessible transportation. So as you can see, we've got a lot of different things that we know will help contribute to achieving a rural Vermont where communities feel like they're thriving and sustainable. So now we're gonna move to our final piece, and this is the piece that I would really love every single person in this room to try and submit at least one answer for. So now on your phones, you'll see a new prompt. It's asking you to turn to a neighbor, but feel free to also discuss this as a table. And what we're gonna talk about is what's something you can bring. Maybe it's something your organization does. Maybe it's something that you're passionate about. Maybe it's something you like to do with your free time. But what's a tool that you could bring to the table? Tell your table about it, tell your neighbor about it, say what it is and why it matters to you. And when you submit it on your card, please put your name down to say it's something you're willing to contribute. And then we'll see how we do. And we'll have all those tools to apply to the pieces that we need filled. Does that sound good? On the first page, it's asking what you can contribute. There's also a second page which asks you, is there anything you've heard about today that you think is really interesting, that you think could help with these things? If you fill that out, just write down the name of the organization of the person who you heard speak about it, and we'll add that to our pool of tools that we can use to solve these problems together. So let's do that for another 5 or so minutes, and then we'll see how we do. Sound good? All right, I am gonna call that good. All right, now, so we'll stop for the tools for now. What I will say is that we're going to try applying and consolidating these right now, which, look at that, that's pretty exciting. And we're gonna see what we come up with. After we do this activity today, we're gonna reopen this so that if during the day you think of something else you'd like to contribute, or if you hear of something else during the day that you think could be helpful, you can add it back in. So this is gonna be an ongoing process, but we're gonna try and see where this puts us just as the test case that we're all doing in the room. So once again, I'm gonna do a little bit of matching on my side and see how these tools that we can contribute line up against the needs that we identified to support these pieces of our future becoming real. So I'll ask you all just to talk amongst yourselves. This should just take a couple minutes and then we'll see what we come up with. Okay, we're matched. So now what you can see, I will zoom in since it's very tiny. Actually, we'll just look at it big here for a second. Wow, look at how many are in the local spaces item. That's exciting. Okay, so I'll zoom in so we can actually see what we're doing. So for each one of these, when we have found a matching tool that exists right here in this room, it's turned from green to blue. And it's identified partnerships of people who can help make that possible right now. Because all of you in this room said that was something that you were able to contribute today. It was something that you know exists today that could help any of these efforts. So now we can see funding. This is the one that I feel like we always get stuck on, right? We're always like, well, yeah, we could do anything, but it takes money. If we look at this, we've got options right here, microgrants and connections. Cora submitted this. We've got grant writing and policy work that someone is willing to contribute. Investment in individual training programs. We've got these rehabilitation agencies, student interns, time and talent. Youth voice infrastructure. We've got all of these different suggestions here. Ooh, this one's got lots. Communication and inclusive discussions. Look at all of these people who are willing to show up to help us have good communication and inclusive discussions right now, today. So there's a ton here, obviously. And what I'm going to do quickly is turn this into something that's a little bit easier for us all to look at and read just as a test case. But the main takeaway, I think, for me, just looking at this is when we put challenges like this up on the board, right, thriving and sustainable communities, sometimes they can feel kind of overpowering. If we were all doing this in a small town and we were saying, you know, we really want our community to thrive, we really want it to have a bright future. Sometimes it feels, how can we do that? Like, there is so much that is out of our control. There is so much that is overwhelming. But we've been here for, I started 15 minutes late, 30 minutes. And we have identified a future that matters to all of us, the pieces that make up that future that we think matter, the steps that need to happen and the component pieces that build it, and things that just the people in this room can do to make it possible. And I think that's a pretty exciting possibility space. So I'll make a little report quickly. I'll just take another couple minutes, and then we'll circle up and see how it felt. Oh, it is on. Hello. Okay, so just to wrap up, on your phones, you should now have a button that says results. So if you want, you can also browse this on your devices. I've just really quickly had this generate a report for us on what we all decided in the room today. So this is the early stage of an action plan, okay? If we want to build rural Vermont communities that are thriving and sustainable, what are we gonna do? We're gonna make gathering spaces and third places, the other way around. And look, here is a team of people that said today they were willing to show up and make this possible. We're gonna make it possible by accomplishing each of these things. That's a big list, but hey, we got some energy and some talent in the room to make it possible. Healthcare access for rural residents. We've got a team of people that have said that they want to show up. If you didn't sign, that's why it says anonymous. So after this, if you have an idea that you want to contribute, just make sure you sign it. So this is just a first draft of what we decided today. What I would love to do with the rest of the time that you have at Rise during the day is I'll go back and open up the tools. If you think of a tool that you'd like to contribute, or if you hear about one that you think is interesting, please put it in here. And then I'll take some time to compile all of these results. I'll share it with the Leahy group so that in a day or two from now, we will have a really good polished report of what we think could happen. What partnerships could we build to empower a thriving and sustainable rural community starting right now? And that's what we'll come out of this with. So, thank you for enjoying this experiment together. I had no idea what was going to happen. I've never tested it with this many people, and that's what we do. We show up and we try things, and I just so appreciate you all trying this with me. And we've got feedback forms on the tables. If I've got pictures of QR codes. If there's not one on your table, please look at a neighboring table. I would love to hear how this experience was for you. This is an experiment that we want to learn from in order to empower ways of solving problems better together and ways to find hope in our solutions. So we'd love to know what the experience was like. And again, thank you all so much for participating and for trying something with us today. I got a little time, so I'm happy to answer any questions if folks have them, but otherwise, please complete your forms. Yes, there. Oh, and I'm sorry, I can't hear you. Is there any way we could grab a mic and pass it around? Ooh, the tech team is once again coming through with all my random requests. Thank you so much. Yes, thank you so much. Oh, wait. Hold.
Hello?
Yes,
Okay, there we go.
success. Thank you.
Yeah, so Dennis Hasabi is one of the co-founders of DeepMind and Nobel Prize winner for AlphaFold.
Yes.
Started out as a game designer.
Yeah. Game designing is a cool way to solve problems. And something that motivates me a lot about it, honestly, especially when we think about AI, is you don't play games because they're easy. They're easy to access, but you stick with them because they're challenging. But they make the challenge joyous. And I think about that a lot in terms of what we spend our time on. For me, I think AI is a really exciting possibility, but it's not because it makes my life easy. It's because it gives me more time in joyous tension. It gives me more time doing the stuff that makes me the most human, and that's how I like to center work around it. And I think that's what games teach us to do. Any other questions? Oh, in the back with the purple.
Hi, thanks for this game. It was a lot of fun and
Yeah,
great to
I'm
hear from
glad.
people. I work in planning, regional planning, municipal planning, so we do exercises like this all the time.
Yeah.
They usually take longer than 30 minutes.
Yes.
I guess one thing that often comes up in planning is lots of great things that
Yep.
intersect and sometimes are in tension.
Yes.
So I wonder if an iteration of this exercise could identify those points that are in tension to spur further conversation at the municipal level, because that's where, you know, the prioritization and
Yep.
the investment
Yep.
and kind of thinking about how to reconcile the need for more housing with the fact that so much of your town is in a floodplain, for example.
Right,
So I
totally.
wonder, that would be something I'd be curious to see.
Yes, I
someday.
love that so much. And just making sure you said tension, right?
Tension.
Yes, there is like, it's the same thing with what I was just mentioning about game design. Tension is actually just energy, right? A lot of times we try to avoid it because we think it feels uncomfortable, but there is so much energy in tension. And what it takes is just creating different shaped spaces, I think, that allow us to hold it as a source of energy. And so we have done exercises like this in the past where we will sort of identify some of those different points. And a lot of times, solution spaces like this, they represent different facets. And sometimes those facets are at different corners of our community, right? But they're all pieces. And so then being able to engage in dialogue and just, I also think play is a great way to create space that is exploratory and makes us feel a little bit safer and a little bit more adventurous to have some of these more tension-rich conversations. If you can make it feel just a little bit more playful and a little bit more like reality is suspended. Like, pretend you're someone in your town who really would disagree with you on housing. What would they maybe say? And you pretend you're someone in the town who really cares about it. Let's have a conversation as those two people, and let's just see what that brings up and see what that could elucidate for us as we seek solutions. Any other questions? Yes? Yep.
That's okay. I'll be really loud. I really like the idea of games as a way to, as a bridge, right?
Yes, a bridge, yes.
Something or like totally different worldviews.
Mm-hmm.
And I think about a lot when I think about community building, and the fact community building or community in general grows or changes in a way that is very often non-linear.
Yes.
A lot of times when we talk about community, we talk about it very linearly. And I
Yes.
see the value of, for instance, like a 5-year town plan. The town's going through that. It's great. We're thinking about all of these really important things. And I think there needs to be space for that sort of like non-linear expansion, whatever that looks like.
Totally.
People who don't agree, as long as they're not being hateful, have a space and a way forward to like invest time, energy, whatever, into the thing that matters to them.
Yes.
And I really believe that that actually strengthens the community across the board. So like I'm curious, I mean, it feels like that's something that just, you know, it is innately sort of connected to games and play.
Yes.
I'm kind of just bringing this up right now. Right? Yeah, I feel like, is it?
Yeah, it 100% is. And it's also core to building value, and it's core to building good technology. It's core to building good anything. So anyone who's ever started a business or anyone who's ever tried to solve a problem where other people need to engage with the problem, you know that you have to put something in front of someone, you have to ask them how they feel about it, you have to listen to their genuine lived experience, and then if you do a good job, you adapt or shape what you have made to appreciate that lived experience. It doesn't mean it dictates it, but you have shown up and you have listened. So in game development, for example, If we made a game and we didn't test it rigorously, constantly, it would be awful. The process of constantly showing up with something you've made, something that you've taken courage, by the way, to say, this is the thing that I think deserves to exist. This is the thing that I think really matters. Put it in front of people, have them feel it, have them live it, have them see it, listen to them, which takes courage also and imagination, and then bring their perspective, bring their ideas, bring their experience back into what you've created. You got to do that constantly. And sometimes it means failing. Sometimes it means, you know, it didn't have the impact that you wanted it to have. But when we practice that muscle of actually making something that we think deserves to exist, putting it into relation with others to see if it provides value, and then knowing that we can learn and grow and we can try again because of that, that's the most rewarding feeling as human beings, as living things. And I think that it helps us build better solutions, and it also just makes us feel better in the lives that we live. All right, we are getting close to time, and I don't see any other questions. So once again, thank you all so much for participating and trying this with me. I'll rewind the machine now so that the tools are still open. Contribute, sign them so that we can sound out an action plan, and I so look forward to seeing what we come up with out of this time together. So thank you all so much.